Well, welcome now to the second part of our interactive workshop. In this part, I want to talk to you about this fantastic new tool, Wolfram Alpha. It is a tool now that you can use to solve any kind of a STEM math problem in the subjects of algebra and geometry, trigonometry, calculus, differential equations, and so on and so forth. In fact, anything that comes up in STEM, Wolfram Alpha more than likely will give you a great solution. And in the event that you need to learn how to do it manually because you're learning some old-fashioned manual algorithms, Wolfram Alpha can even give you then a step-by-step tutorial, and I'll show you how that works too. Now, obviously what I'm going to do here is I want to make you aware of Wolfram Alpha. I want to make you aware of all the things it is capable of doing. Clearly, it takes a lot of time to actually learn to use a sophisticated tool like this. But first you've got to be aware of it and know how you can go about getting the resources it takes to learn and how to use it and how it can literally transform the learning of mathematics. Well, folks, this is Wolfram Alpha. You take any browser that you have and you go to www.wolframalpha.com and up will come this web page. So it's free. You can use it with any computer, Chromebook, Macintosh, PC. It doesn't matter. Anytime you got a browser on the internet, you've obviously got to go on the internet. Now look at all the things that Wolfram Alpha will do. It's a fantastic tool, and here are all the subjects. Right up here is mathematics, which is what we're going to talk about today. But it will also do words and linguistics, units and measure. In fact, we use that. We teach technicians in our workforce math program how to use units and measurement. Food and nutrition, engineering, earth sciences, physics, and you name it, there's all these subjects. Now, the facts are, it's a tool. So if you're going to learn about a subject, you're going to have to get additional training on the concepts of the subject and then learn how to use this fantastic tool. So if you're going to learn about weather and meteorology, for example, you're going to have to take a course on it. And you're going to have to study it conceptually and then learn to use this tool to do it. I might add, it isn't mentioned anywhere here that I see, but it's useful in genealogy. I know a genealogist that showed me a program that she had learned where somebody learned how to take Wolfram Alpha and do all sorts of fantastic things for genealogy. And of course, it was a training program that someone had developed to do that. And so that's just an example. So you're going to have to go out and find the appropriate training in order to do whatever it is you want to do. And today, I'm going to focus in this workshop on mathematics because that's what we're interested in and that's what we're going to talk about. So, here it goes. You might take a look at this yourself. If you've never seen Wolfram Alpha, you might want to go to a website and start following along what I'm doing here. It comes up and there's a blank box here. It says, enter what you want to calculate or know about. Now, just to give you a little quick example here of things it'll do that are beyond mathematics. Now, let's say you're studying history, and you've learned about the $5 per day deal that Henry Ford did back in 1914, and you would like to know how much that would be worth today. So you simply type this in. Now, this isn't really a math problem. It sort of is, but if you want to know that, and you hit enter, and now you got to wait. Now, I will tell you, Wolfram Alpha answers these questions by going over into a bank of computers somewhere, and then it delivers the answer back to you. You have to be hooked to the internet to use it, obviously. And here's the answer. $5 in 1914, today in 2017, when I'm doing this video, is worth $122.68. And here is the graph of that. If you understand graphs, and if you learn mathematics, you will. This is how that $5 appreciated in value all over the years. And you can see during the Great Depression, it actually went down a little bit and then back up and started up after World War II. It really began to go. And in fact, it tells you that the average inflation rate over that period of time, which is over a century, is 3.16% per year. So that's how much we've had inflation, which, by the way, if you understand money, that is an ideal inflation rate for a good money supply. That's another story, of course, and I'm not going to talk to you about that on this video, on this workshop. But this is just an example of using Wolfram Alpha for a general question you might ask. Okay, I typed in 2 plus 7 to see what the answer would be, and it came back and it told me that the answer is 9. And it spelled it out for me, the word 9. It also came down and gave me a little graph. It said you take 2, you add 7 to it, and you get 9. So if you're teaching young children, Wolfram Alpha can be quite handy for that. And in fact, it went ahead, if you go further down, and it says, okay, if you take 2 squares and add to 7 squares, you get 9 squares. And then it even tells you how long it will take a human to compute this in time. Age 6, about 4 seconds. Up to age 10, you're down to 1.6, and over 18, less than a second. So this is just various information that it gives you. I didn't even ask for that. I just asked for what's the answer, 2 plus 7, and Wolfram Alpha usually gives you a lot of additional information that you may find of use. And in fact, as you can see here, it could even be very useful for young children. Okay, and now I went up and I typed in 2 minus 7. Obviously, I'm getting into negative number territory now, so this wouldn't be for real young children. And it gives me the answer. It shows a minus 5, and it says, you say negative 5. And it shows it on the number line. You take 2 and go over to here, then you take and subtract 7, and you end up at minus 5. Or it shows you how you take blocks, and again, it puts in the minus signs. Now, you're getting into concepts now. You wouldn't want to use this tool until you taught your child what a negative number was and the negative number line. You'd be talking about the positive numbers go this way, the negative numbers this way. So this would be a tool you would use as you were teaching a child, be a little older student now. And notice down here it didn't say how long it would take to do this manually because, well, it just didn't give you that information. But this is an example of, again, how you can begin to use Wolfram Alpha even with very young children. Okay, now the next example I'm going to give is, let's see, you have an older child now and you're teaching them how to add fractions. So you want to give them 2/3 plus 4/5. And I just typed that in, and you notice I just used the slash. You quickly learn the way you can ask the question. And it always comes down and tells you what your input was, so you can check your input. 2/3 plus 4/5. That's how it interprets what you typed in up here. And if it didn't say that down here, then that would let you know you didn't type it in right up here. Now it gives you the result. It says the exact result is 22/15. It also gives it to you then in decimal form. And it also tells you it's a repeating decimal. This is for older children where you're trying to teach them how rational numbers always have repeating decimals. Now something that it does, it also goes down a little bit further, and I'll move down, and it tells you here that here's a mixed fraction, or what we call improper fractions. Now here's something over here. You see it where it says step-by-step solution. Okay, you click on that, and it's going to show you now how to do this problem step by step, except in this free version that you get through your browser, it doesn't want to do it. It says if you want to unlock the full solution, you've got to go pro. And now you've got to pay some money if you want to use it as a tutor with a regular browser. So what Go Pro now? What does that mean? Well, that means you come over here and you sign up for a monthly program. And it can vary anywhere from $5 to $8 a month. Here's Pro for educators. Here's just Pro in general. If you're not a student or an educator, it's $5.50 up to $10 a month. So somewhere between $5 and $10 a month, depending on who you are or who you tell them you are, you sign up for it. So it's a monthly charge to use the step-by-step. Now, that's fine and dandy. But I am not going to do that on this video. I'm just showing you that's what you could do to see step by step. Now, as you can see, I'm using what is called a supercomputer. And this is a special computer. And I'm going up here and clicking on this little symbol up here. You might have seen me. And this is the Mathematica Wolfram Research Tools that comes with this computer. And it's opening it up. And now I have, and I'm going to shut this screen off. And I now have what is called a notebook. A Mathematica Notebook. And this Mathematica Notebook lets me do all sorts of things. And if I come up here to this little plus sign and click on it, then I can enter programs in what's called Wolfram language. This is the fantastic new programming language, which I'm not going to tell you very much about in this workshop. There's just not time for that, because what I want to focus on is Wolfram Alpha done out of this notebook. So I'm going to click on that, and now here's Wolfram Alpha. And now let's go and do what we had earlier. Let's say that we're going to put in 2/3 added to, oh, I forget what we had earlier, but let's say it was 4/7. And I'm typing that in. You see me type it in, and then I hit the return key, and now I got to wait. It says running up here. You see, look up here. It's going off somewhere to a big bank of computers and solving this problem, and it's going to feed the answer back using the internet. So it takes some time. We're sitting here waiting. I want you to realize it always takes time for it to get this back, and you have to be hooked to the internet. And here it is, the answer back. Now, first of all, I look at the input, and it says this is what it thinks I put in, 2/3 plus 4/7, and that's correct. It gives me the exact result, 2621. Gives me the decimal approximation. Shows me the repeating decimal cycle. If you're teaching your student rational numbers, you'll know what that means. If not, don't worry about it. And here is the mixed fraction, or the mixed fraction. Now, it also shows you where it would land on the number line. It also gives you a pie chart. And so you see some additional things there. Here would be 2/3 added to 4/7 in a pie chart. And it gives you a full pi plus 6/21. So this is a visual thing that when you're teaching young students how to do fractions, this is all very, very handy. Now, you say, well, I want to teach them the manual algorithm. So this is going to give us a step-by-step solution. Now, this will work now in the supercomputers. So this, I didn't have to join Alpha Pro to do this. There it is. And this is a step-by-step solution you will get if you join Wolfram Alpha Pro. With a regular computer, you get it automatically. It says simplify the following, 2/3 plus 4/7. And it starts telling you what to do. Put them over a common denominator, which would be 21. 3 times 7 is 21, and there it is. And it goes down and it tells them what to do. And then it goes, it proceeds through now. 7 times 2 is 14. 3 times 4 is 12. So then you put in the 14, the 12, and the 14. You add them together, and it even shows you then. It even gives you the algorithm for adding 12 and 14. So there's 26, and there's the final answer. So it showed you what you would teach them, the manual algorithm. Now this is a phenomenal thing. So this means like you've got a tutor now. Not only is it going to give you the answer, but it's going to give you the tutorial how to do it. And it does this for all kinds of math problems that you can do now, and that's what I'm going to continue to give you some examples of. I will also tell you that it now stores this. I can now come down. If you use Wolfram Alpha with a regular browser, once you answered a question and you go to another one, you lose the first one. But let's say I didn't want to lose this. I want to save this. So now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to hit the plus sign, and I'm going to hit Wolfram Alpha again, and I'm going to do another one. And now I can do something completely different. So let me pause the video and put in something different. Okay, now I put in an algebra problem. This is something you might do to somebody that's studying Algebra 1. And I put in, solve this quadratic equation, 2x squared. Now this little hat you'll learn means exponent. Minus 3x plus 7 equals 0. And here it says, this is how it's solved. 2x squared minus 3x plus 7 equals 0. So I typed it in correctly. And then I let it run. It took a little while to do it, not very long, and it gives me the results. And here are the two solutions. They're complex numbers, and here they are on the complex plane. So it shows you that. And then you might say, well, I would like to see what they are without the square root symbol, so approximate forms. I hit that, and it will show it to me then. It's 0.75 minus 1.71i, and so on. And so this is in approximate forms. Or I can go back to exact forms. But now watch what it does. And this is very valuable now, this step-by-step solution again. Now we're talking about teaching a student to do it. And it's going to give you different ways of doing it. It's going to say you complete the square. That's an algorithm. You teach them in algebra. Or you can use the quadratic formula. This is the completing the square algorithm. And now what it does, it goes down and it shows you how to do this. This is what you would teach a student if you're teaching them the complete the square algorithm. And then, of course, it comes down and is up with the final answer. So this is the tutorial part. So let's say you're teaching a student how to solve a quadratic equation, and you want them to know how to do it manually, because maybe they're taking a class in a public school, and they're going to make them learn this. And so this is the tutor to show them exactly how to solve this step by step. Now, if you know algebra, you're an algebra teacher, or you're a student that studied algebra, this will make sense to you. If not, just take my word for it that this is an extremely useful thing. And this applies to virtually any mathematics that you can imagine. And notice the original thing is still here. So this saves this in a notebook. And in fact, I can come up here now where it says File, and I can say Save As. And now I've got a whole bunch of things that I've saved it at, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this the demo webinar, which is what well, I'll just call it a workshop. I'll call it webinar. Doesn't matter. Call it anything you want. The demo webinar. Save. Okay, now I saved it. Now I'm going to stop it. It's gone. Now I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to open it back up again to show you that it's there. So at some later date, you've done a lot of examples, let's say, or your student has done a lot of examples, and you want to go back and look at them later to review them. And you don't want to have to type all that in again, which you would have to do if you did a regular computer. You'd have to go back and type all that in and wait for it. Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to come up to File. I'm going to say Open. And now, where did I do it? I had a demo webinar. I just did this one, right? And so I'm going to click on it. And I got to wait a little bit, and up it comes. Usually it takes some time to format. It says Enable Dynamics. It's worried that there's something in this that could hurt your computer, so I click on the Enable Dynamics. And I'm waiting. Progress dialog is taking time. Formatting the notebook contents, it takes time. And then there's the answer. Now there's what I did before. So now I've got it all back. So when you are doing homework, you can save your work now. You can save your work. And you can go back and play with it. You can now say, well, I want to change this, and I want to get a different problem, and so on and so forth. So that is how this basically works. And then I'm going to give you a few more examples here so you can just fully appreciate the capability of it. Okay, now let's just look at some examples that I've worked out earlier. So I'm going to come here and open, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to pick out this demo for algebra factoring. And I got to come up here now. This is something I did sometime in the past. I'm doing, homework, let's say. And now I want to expand. I want to take 2x minus 3 and I multiply it times 3x plus 7. Now I learned through experimentation that the command is expand. One of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to learn all the commands. And I'll show you where you can get resources to do that in a minute. But expand it, and it gives you the result here. And here it is, expanded. And of course it could say, and it does more than just expand it. It graphs it for you, and it tells you that it's a parabola. And in fact, it even gives you the ability here to change some of the way you graph it, where you put it on that. And I won't get into too much of that. It tells you some things that you probably would only care about if you're advanced, expanding it over a finite field, the p-adic expansion. These are things that advanced mathematicians would care about. That most high school students wouldn't even know what it is. This is from algebraic number theory, for example, p-adic expansions, and so forth and so on. Now, I'm going to take the same problem and come on down here, and I just did it again because I can save it, and I did the step-by-step solution, and now I'm showing you how to expand it. And basically, you're just applying the distributive law and the rules of arithmetic. And it shows a student, though, if you want them to do this manually, it's showing them how to do it manually, step by step. That's where the tutor comes in. And then, of course, it went ahead and plotted it just like it had already done. The step by step then was in addition to that. And I'm moving down now. And now what will happen is, and this is an interesting thing, teachers make up problems. They expanded that out. And that was really pretty easy. Then they give you the problem, factor this. Now that's what it ended up being. And so factor it, and it gives you the factorization of it. Now, this is a much harder problem for students to do. A much harder problem. Factoring is much harder than expanding, but we do still torture our students by making them learn this, which quite frankly, I think it's obsolete now, and I wouldn't make them do it. But if you hit step-by-step solution, it'll tell you how to do it. It'll tell you. The coefficient of x squared is 6. The constant term is minus 21. So you've got to find, and the product of that is 126. So you've got to take all the factors of this and try them all out. And you just have to experiment with them until you finally figure it out. And this can take a guy a long time to do, and that's the manual way. And so it sort of teaches that manually. And that's fine and dandy if you want to teach your student to do that. And again, if your child is going to a public school, taking a standard math curriculum, or you're studying, let's say you're doing it at a homeschooler, and you're studying out of, say, Saxon Math, for example, they're going to want you to learn this manual stuff. Okay, fine and dandy. Now I put in a quadratic equation and said factor it, and it gave me the answer. And of course, it would use the quadratic formula to do that, but it doesn't give me step-by-step solution because there's no easy way to factor this step by step. In fact, most quadratics are not factorable using the standard techniques that are taught. In fact, that's one of the problems with the manual tools. They don't apply most of the time. If you're an engineer and you've got to somehow factor this, you're going to have to understand how to find the roots of it, called, using the complete the square algorithm. Of course, with the modern tool, it just does it for you. So here it is factored. It's called an irreducible factorization, but there's no step-by-step because there's no easy way to do this except to learn how to use the quadratic formula. So that's just an example of how Wolfram Alpha works. It's just a phenomenal tool in every way, and I went ahead and I gave you some more examples. If you wanted to factor that thing, like I told you earlier, you'd have to learn how to find the roots. And I did this something earlier, step by step, and this is using the quadratic formula. And I won't go any further on this particular demo on that, but that's just an example of it. So here's just another example of how Wolfram Alpha, when you have it, and the ability to use the step by step and all of that, and to save it, is fantastic for learning math. Okay, now let me give you a quick example from calculus. If you don't know calculus, this won't mean much to you at all. But if you do know calculus, this will mean a lot to you. I want to integrate x times cosine of x squared. Integrate just means find the antiderivative, or the indefinite integral is called. And here is the answer. It gives it to me immediately. And it will also show me a step-by-step solution how to do it if you want to learn to do it manually. And I'm not going to bore you with that right now or waste your time with that. It also will give you the graph of the antiderivative. And there's the graph. In fact, Wolfram Alpha graphs any kind of a function you want. It's a phenomenal thing that way. It's better than any graphing calculator I've ever seen by far. It will also give you what's called an infinite series expansion of that if you need it. And there's times that you'll need that in engineering. So an engineer would find this of use. And it also gives you one example of what's called the definite integral, where it evaluates it at two endpoints by using, in this case, the fundamental theorem of calculus. And then you might say, well, I wanted to know what the integral was from -1 to 2. So you say integrate, and you put in the function again from -1 to 2. And now it gives you the definite integral answer. It used the fundamental theorem. It would show you the step-by-step solution if you wanted to see it, which I won't take the time in this demo, but if you're interested in calculus. Now let me show you something that's very interesting. You're an engineer, and you need to integrate cosine of x squared from -1 to 2. And this will come up in certain engineering applications. And so you tell Wolfram Alpha to do it, and here it gives you the answer. It says the integral of -1 to 2 of cosine of x squared is this number right here. And you go, my goodness, what is this? Well, this is the antiderivative, but it's not in terms of any ordinary function. It's a special function. This one happens to be called a Fresnel integral. And it turns out in engineering that very, very often you cannot find an antiderivative in terms of any ordinary functions. You'll notice over here it does not say step-by-step solution, because there is no easy step-by-step solution. Our ancestors, oh my goodness, it would take hours to do this manually. If you can do this manually using infinite series and all of that. In fact, that's how the Fresnel integral is defined, as infinite series. And I know if you don't know calculus, or this may be way beyond what you know, but the point being, Wolfram Alpha solves a problem that would never come up in an ordinary calculus book. You would not find this problem in an ordinary calculus book because they don't get this deep into it. But engineers need to know it. Science need to know it. So Wolfram Alpha solves problems that, quite frankly, can't be done in any practical manual way. And it's, of course, it's giving you the graph of it and showing you some other things about it and so on and so forth. And it's phenomenal. In fact, it tells you the indefinite integral, the antiderivative, is this here, but this is a special function. And this often happens, and so this is just an example. There is not any STEM math problem that I've ever run into that Wolfram Alpha will not solve. And in fact, we're talking about problems that basically can't be solved manually. So this is a tool. If you're going to learn calculus today and you use Wolfram Alpha as a tool, the concepts are easy. It's the tools that are hard, and Wolfram Alpha makes it very, very easy. As I've said elsewhere, Mathematics today is a barrier to people studying STEM. And the barrier is the manual tools. Well, the Wolfram Alpha is like a tunnel through the barrier. So today you can learn all of the calculus you'll ever need for science and engineering in about one semester. It's really quite easy. And the same is true of what are called differential equations, which are the workhorse of STEM. Now, I'm not going to give you any examples in this workshop. It just takes too long. But I will just tell you that you can also solve differential equations and multivariate calculus and just all sorts of things with Wolfram Alpha. In fact, any kind of a STEM problem I've ever seen, I could, if I could figure out the right commands, I could solve it with Wolfram Alpha. Okay, now some of you have asked me about this supercomputer I've been using for this demonstration. So let me just tell you, you can go to Supra, S-U-P-R-A, computer.org, and click on that website, and you'll learn all about it. Benefits, features, see it in action, demonstration. And there's something called the Supercomputer Club that you'll need to click on and read that, because when you buy a supercomputer, you're actually joining a group, a club as we call it, and you'll be dealing with other members. And when you buy a supercomputer, you have access then to a tremendous amount of training that you need to know how to use Wolfram Alpha then to do all of these things. It's hard to learn on your own. It took Dr. Dell hundreds of hours to figure out how to use Wolfram Alpha to do all the different mathematics that we're talking about. So there's training on that to do it. There's also training when you join the club, when you buy a supercomputer, for parents that have young children. He called them the Uncle Jack videos. And there's also lots and lots of other free stuff on this Supercomputer Club, and it's expanding all the time. In fact, it would be very, very, very worth it just to do that. Now, there's also a forum you can go to where you can ask questions of other Supercomputer Club members, and also Dr. Dell will participate in the forum if need be. On top of that, there is a Supercomputer Club store where you can go and buy special products that are not available anywhere else, at least at the price that they're there at the club. So there's a store that'll be valuable. Now, someone asked me if they could actually look at a supercomputer. Of course, this will be demonstrated at the club. This is a supercomputer. I'm going to take the top off. This is the Raspberry Pi I told you about. This is the little hardware computer that you can buy for $35. But of course, it's very hard to use by itself. What makes this really magical is there's an SD card in it, a 30 gig SD card, and that's where all the important stuff is that you're getting when you buy the supercomputer that lets it make it so easy to use. And I'll put the lid back on it here. You normally don't ever need to take it off. And it has 4 USB ports. It has an Ethernet port. This hooks to an HDMI TV. This hooks to microphones or speakers. And this is your power cord. It runs on power. You'll learn all that when you go to the supercomputer.org website. People, we haven't even talked about yet. Somebody asked me, well, what does it cost? What did this cost you? Well, I got one in the early stages before it went commercial, and it was quite expensive actually. But the facts are, today, it turns out, we were advised some time ago by some expert business people that we should charge $1,000 for it. You cannot buy anything today, any computer that even begins to do what the supercomputer does, for $1,000 or even probably $2,000 or $3,000. So they wanted us to charge that much. So we put together a website. It's called MakeAmericaSupraGreat.com. Now, some people see that, they don't like it because they don't like Donald Trump. Well, remember, I said make America super great. What that means is beyond great. We think America's already great. And we have decided the company that STEM Math Made Easy is the company that actually produces a supercomputer. It's a 501c3 not-for-profit. And we said, no, we're not going to charge $9.99. We're going to see if we can sell this thing successfully at $179. We want to basically we're not trying to make money. We're trying to get this out into as many hands as we can. And but we got to pay our bills. So we don't know yet whether or not we'll be able to sell this for $179 in any large long-term quantity. So today, they've got the funding to do this for a period of time. So you can buy one now for $179. You just go to Make America Super Great. And by the way, at that website, it explains pretty much everything I've talked about in this video you're watching. It has a list of all the benefits and features. There's like all kinds of features this thing has way beyond just doing the math. This thing is an amazing product. And you need to learn about it if you're interested, if you're thinking of buying one. So you can go there and learn all about it. And in fact, there's even 3 videos there that explain it. There's limitations and that you need to understand what limitations and restrictions. It won't do everything, but it does things that no other computer will do, for sure. And then there's a bunch of videos at the bottom. There's one that just shows it in action, 26-minute video. And then if you're interested in math, there's one that kind of does what I've already done in this workshop. It just demonstrates the thing that STEM students would want to know. There's also, you can click on and get a PDF for math students on the Supercomputer Empowers You. This is aimed at math students, so you can do that. So go to these 2 websites and you'll be able to learn all about it. And then we'll continue the workshop and beyond that and answer additional questions as that you may have. So this is signing off now. I hope that this has been beneficial to you.